Live now.
All right.
Okay. Let me so I can see you guys' beautiful faces. Hello to everybody out there on Facebook. We are just now setting up, so just give us a minute here. All right, all right. Good evening, and grand rising to everybody out there in Facebook land. How are you doing? Listen, you know what we do, okay? We want you to come on in, everybody. Come on in. Invite everybody you know. All right. This is Dr. Carolyn, CEO visionary of I'm a Black Woman, I'm a Black Man Project. And I am here tonight with In Between Sisters. You know the show. This is the show where we dare to have that conversation. All right. We cross all boundaries. Okay. And we have that conversation. So I want you to grab somebody that you love. Listen, I want to talk to you moms out there, you moms, you grandmothers, you aunties and uncles, anybody who is raising a son, anybody who has raised a son, okay, or a grandson, or you have a special young man in your life. If you have never tuned in to our show, tonight is the night that you need to tune into this show because of the special guests that we have. Okay, you're going to be enlightened. You're going to be encouraged. Okay, you're going to be empowered. So grab your sons, your grandsons, your nephews. I want you to click that share button for me. Okay, click that share button. You need to share this show. I promise you, you will not regret it, and you will thank me. So again, I'm Dr. Carolyn Stevens. I'm super excited on tonight. We'll be introducing our guests in just a moment. All right, so we're just gonna go around so that everybody can meet our host for tonight. I never say co-host, okay? Because we're all hosting here equally. So I'm gonna start with my left, okay? That's over here. All right, so I think that's Jacqueline. So Jacqueline, introduce yourself, and then we'll go down the round.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Kabah Harrison. I'm a confidence and success coach, and I am also a part of the I Am a Black Woman Next Level project movement, shall I say. And I'm so excited to be here. I am known for my 8 Queens Roundtable quarterly symposiums, as well as my 8 Queens Roundtable show. So I'm excited to be here. So let's go.
All righty. And down below, Jacqueline, we have Wake Up, Go to Sleep and Wake Up, Coach P.
Well, see, on my computer screen, it doesn't look like that. That's why I don't know who's next. So it may look like that for you, but it's I'm up above you, actually. So, yeah, on my screen, I'm up above you. So I didn't know I was next. But I am so excited to be here this Sunday evening. I am Coach P, Pastor P. Yep, it's me. I am a trainer, a coach, a mentor, and a speaker with the John Maxwell Group. I am also a co-author on the I Am a Black Woman Next Level, as well as I call myself I'm Every Woman. I'm a manager for some 501(c) foundations, as well as what am I? I'm just Coach P, baby. It's just me. I'll figure all that out as we go along. As my host
that works for me.
Start talking. Yes, I'm still evolving. So if you read my bio, it say I never put myself in a box, and I never put a period where God is continuously putting commas. So that's just what you need to know today.
All right. Okay. Our next host, below, now where I see it down below, introduce your lovely and beautiful self.
I am Darshelle McAlpine, the CEO of Boss Lady Press, an independent publishing company, also of Boss Lady Media as of late, because of the I Am a Black Man Ascension of the Kings project. I have moved into the executive producing realm, which is new for me. I am ecstatic to be a part of this auspicious panel with these beautiful queens. in this king that I am getting to meet face to face for the
Right.
first time. So it is exciting to be a part of this group.
Awesome. I love the fact she pulled out the dictionary too. I love that.
She always do.
She said auspicious.
You
Go
messing
ahead,
with the
sister.
you messing with the boss lady.
That's it.
She
That's
is
it.
gonna pull out some words on you. So get your dictionary, your
Get your dictionary.
thesauruses, and
Thesaurus.
everything else. Yes.
Britannica
get it right.
Encyclopedia.
You know,
You better
Going
talk.
back.
You see,
I
I
love
got my
words.
other
I'm a
phone.
lover
I
of
got my other
words.
phone here.
Yes, I love words too. I used to sit and read the dictionary. I just used to read the dictionary,
love
but
jail-
words
what
are
jail
super,
people do.
super important. Well, anyway, we're gonna dive right in, and because I have all kinds of thoughts going in. So again, everybody, I want you to share, and share again, please. All right. Let me go ahead on and make this announcement too for those of you who may not know. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just say, we are not live. I can't find you anywhere on my page.
You can't
I
find
got it.
me.
We're fine. I
It's on
got
my
it.
page.
I think we are live.
Okay.
Yep, the little button says, okay, ooh, you scared me. Anyway, I wanted to make this announcement for those of you who may not know. I don't know why you wouldn't know though, but if you don't know, you're gonna know today. All right, so the newly released book, I Am a Black Man, Ascension of the, you gotta let Reginald say it. I can't say it the way he says it. Ascension of the King.
Of the King, yes.
That documentary is just awesome. It's everything. But anyway, if you have not pre-ordered your book, please, we want to encourage you to pre-order your book. You can pre-order your book by going to www.bossladypress.com. And we're going to put it again in the chat. We want you guys to chat along with us. We promise that we'll try our best to answer all of the chats and different things that are coming in. But at any rate, Jacqueline, would you please do us the honor of introducing our guest?
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So our guest this evening is Mr. Rickie Clarke, who has a special skill set for his distinctive approach and a passion for helping underserved communities. He is an educational consultant, author, and executive director of the Fort Worth Independent School District's My Brother's Keepers program, initiated by former President Barack Obama in 2014. He is a dynamic and influential motivator who uses a unique approach as he works with young men of color. That approach has proven successful through his strategies to elevate people, which is the STEP program. Clarke travels throughout the United States, designing, implementing, and coordinating programs that aid youth through self-development and cultural education.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
so
for having me.
everybody, let us introduce to you none other than Mr. Rickie Clarke. How are you doing on this evening, Mr.
All
Clarke?
right. I'm blessed and highly favored. Thank you all for having me. I'm excited about it. I had a chance to look at the documentary, and so I'm just like hyped. I normally play golf on Sundays, but I said not today. I'm going to be amongst the ladies, and they was like, Rick. I was like, man, I got to go. I can't play today. So thank you for having me. I'm excited about being here. So thank you for having me.
Oh no, thank you for having us. Thank you so much for having us. Mr. Clarke, before I start our line of questioning here that we have, I do want to turn my attention to Boss Lady Press, Miss Darshell McAlpine. And I did want to ask a question to kind of flow into our subject matter on tonight. So Darshell, let me ask you a question. When you began to, and I know, people say, well, I was the visionary, but you caught the vision and ran with it beautifully as you always do. And so I wanted to ask you though, when you were in the process of creating the I Am a Black Man, Ascension of the Kings project, what was your goal for the project? What goal did you have for the project?
from a publishing standpoint, it was just a finish.
Got it. I got it.
But really, with this project, as with the other project, with the I Am a Black Woman, it was really to start having some very real conversations. Let's start talking about the things we aren't saying, and let's dispel the myths that exist about who we are as a people. Because something Coach P has said in the past, that we have helped to perpetuate those myths about ourselves. So who better to speak to them and dispel them but us? And the I Am a Black Man project, I don't care who you are, where you're from, when you read these stories, you are confronted with the fact that what you believe is true is not.
Wow. That's beautiful. Well, Mr. Clark, so I was up late last night. I had many, many, many thoughts of questions that I wanted to ask you. I am a mother of a son who is 26 years old. So I'm particularly elated about having you here for those reasons. But I want to first start out by asking you, and I know some of the other hosts may have some questions. Could you kind of give us a little bit of a synopsis of the work that you do, and why do you do it? What made you go into the work that you do now?
I'm glad you asked. I don't know if y'all read the book, but I wrote a book called What My Daddy Should Have Told Me: Life Lessons for the African American Male. And in my book, I wrote the book because I had met my daddy when I was 17, seen him 27 times before he died. But I had some questions I asked my father, right? So I raised 5 boys as a single parent, only 2 of my biological sons. I had 3 kids, and I've never been married to not one of the mothers, right? I had questions for my daddy. So I had questions that I needed to ask him, and I began to think about what I need to know. What about other young men, right? So I've been doing this work since over 30 years. I've designed, implemented, and coordinated programs. I started off by working in the juvenile detention center. While in the juvenile detention center, I found out that most of the boys that I work with came from public housing or psychiatric hospitals. So I left the juvenile detention center and went and worked at the psychiatric hospital, Green Oaks and Charter Hospital. Left Green Oaks Charter Hospital, found out a job was in Butler Housing Community here in Fort Worth, moved from Dallas to Fort Worth and started working for the Fort Worth Housing Authority. Neighbors Against Drugs program. Love working with young people. And I'm from Chicago. I didn't know anybody here. I would just go there. And I'm not from the projects. I'm from the southeast side of Chicago, but I would just go and work with the people in the community. And when I'm seeing that, I'm seeing me all over again. I'm watching the boys. I'm seeing what's happening in the neighborhood. And so I began to, once I came into the consciousness of who I am, started studying my African history, everything changed.
Oh, wow.
I realized that in order for you to be a man, you got to see a man, right? So when I realized that, I read a book called Vision for the Black Man by Naeem Akbar. So when I was working in the Butler Housing Community, it was during the time that AIDS was a big problem, and I was selected to go to Atlanta for an AIDS conference. I was certified to teach about AIDS in the Black community. While I was there, I had a chance to meet Naeem Akbar, all the legends, Anthony Browder, Francis Quest Wesley, and my quest was it. That was it. All right, I can go on with the names. While I was there, he had written a book. The book was called Vision for the Black Man. At this time, my kids were living in Chicago. I'm here by myself. I got off the airplane after reading the book, and I was living with a young lady. And I came to the house and I told her, we gonna have to do something. Boys play house, men get married. She was like, what? Are you some kind of cult? I said, boys play house and men get married. I've read this book. She's like, are you? She called her mother. They came over. I said, you can have everything in the house. We had just moved in. She took everything out of the house. And I was good with it. And the next day I called to Chicago and had the mother of my children to send them to me. And the quest started right there. When you begin to do things like that, it's different. So I brought my sons to me and I began to teach them while I was learning. What was I learning? Learning about what it means to be a man, not just a man, but an African born in America, not an African American, but an African born in America. Because I believe it's only when you begin your history in the state of freedom that you come to properly understand your role. So I began what you call a rites of passage program. Not only I had to go through it, but I had to take my sons through it. Well, not only that, I raised their friends. I'm not bragging, it's a testimony. Because a real man to take care of his kids to somebody else. Boys don't do that. So not only did I raise my own 2 biological sons, brought in 3 more boys and raised 5 kids as a single parent. That wasn't smart. But I didn't know any better. I was like, I want to raise my sons without a woman. So I didn't show them things like that. There were no women in my house. There's no smoke, no drink. Young lady came by. I remember my son telling me, said, my dad ain't gonna let you bring that in the house. She had some coolers. Said, my dad ain't gonna let you bring that in the house. She was like, Rickie, we went to college together. I was like, I don't smoke, I don't drink. She sat them at the table. From that point on, I began to show my children what a real man is. And the rest is history. And when I say the rest is history, I really mean the rest is history. What do you mean history? His story. Learn about the culture of Africans, not race, but culture.
Wow.
Stop right there.
I am, and Mr. Clark, you'll probably hear quite a few of us here. We talk about we having a moment. Okay. So I'm having one right now. I'm having a moment because I raised my son pretty much by myself. And let me say this. I was married and raised my son by myself. You know, and I think what I'm feeling right now, I don't know about any of you who may have raised a son. I think what I'm feeling right now is everything that you're saying. I can't help but feel I wish my son had that. You know, I wish he did. I wish that he had that. I wish, and I knew that I could not give him that, but I wish that he had that. So there's so many things that you said that I just really wrote down, but I don't want to hog you up all to myself because I got some questions here, but that's what I'm feeling right now in this moment. Jacqueline, I know you have a son. How do you feel about what Mr. Clark has just said? Gotta take
that. I was muted. A host of issues.
I know.
And I guess what really sticks out is actually teaching, like you said, teaching a man how to be a man. You know, and it really stuck out with me in terms of the rites of passage. And I know that there's a lot of, I've encountered a lot of women online that do rites of passage programs for young women. And I'm not just even hearing that, I think that's very needed, because I think a lot of young men out there struggle with what it is to be a man, you know, and if they don't see it, you know what I mean? If it's not an example in their home, or maybe they don't see it in the community, or, you know, their cousins, their brothers, uncles, you know what I mean? I think it kind of leaves a lot to the streets to educate them, and, you know, what they're learning from their peers who are also not seeing it, you know, in terms of what it means to be a man. And I think that is one of the crucial pieces that's, you know, missing from our communities. Because then what happens, you know, then relating it to us as Black women, you know, these young men grow up and they're, you know, and I'm not just pointing everything on the Black man, but that's part of why they don't know and why they relate to us the way that they do, is because they just don't know.
Well, yeah. If I can veggie back off that, I always tell women when I'm working with them, it's like, well, you know, and we women, I want to share with you all, they play a very pivotal part. I was raised by my mother.
Okay.
Let me start off with that. As a single parent, remember, I didn't meet my daddy until I was 17. My mama raised me and taught me how a man should treat a woman. I didn't know how to, put the woman on the inside when you walk down the street. The only door that a man goes through first is a rotating door or automatic door. My mama taught me that, right? And I understand that people often ask the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know which one came first, the chicken or the egg. But I ain't never seen no egg take care of no chicken. But I have seen a chicken take care of that egg. Okay, so knowing that the chicken can take care of the egg, then I know what it is. We got to honor and respect our women. I'm not caught up in this foolishness. My mama have shown me that, right? You honor and respect the women. If you want to learn how to be a man, listen to what a woman has to say. Don't think that the women don't have a lot to say. You all can show me how you want to be treated. So you teach your sons, so your sons will teach their sons, even if there's no daddy in the house or if daddy in the house, because daddy may not know. In order to be a man, you got to see a man. So we do a program called male socialization, right? How do you define man? The first question you would ask any male that's dating you or dating your son, how do you define man? And everybody gives a different definition, right? But we define man as a male who acts, thinks, and live responsible. Anytime you're not acting, thinking, and living responsible, just a boy masquerading as a man. Let me repeat that.
What that
Act,
makes me
think, and live responsible. Yes, ma'am.
You know what that makes me think about? So you said that your mom taught you, how to treat a woman.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I guess it's like I'm thinking if there's a lot of single parent homes,
They are.
a lot of young men are coming out of. So I guess will we venture to say that maybe
y'all play a part?
Right, yeah, and
Yeah,
how do
they
you
do.
think we play a part? So is
Oh,
that
you
are
do
we,
play a
are we to
part.
conclude that
Yeah, but let
women
me say
that
this
we
to
don't
you
teach
too.
our sons that, or
Yeah,
what are
well,
your
you
thoughts?
play a part, but let me give you this part. We don't blame the victims for being victimized, because if you didn't know what a man was, how can you show it? Right? Because you had your daddy who didn't do it. I remember me. I was pissed at my daddy. But when I'm pissed at my daddy, and I had to realize when I talked to my daddy, find out that his daddy didn't teach him. You don't want to get deeper than that? His daddy didn't teach him. So I'm mad at my daddy for not being a daddy, but my daddy don't know how to be a daddy. And so we always talk about it from a spiritual perspective or religious perspective. I'll say religion because spirituality don't say that. From a religious perspective, that it's what's that word? It's what does they call it? Curse, right? It's a curse. No, not true. It's just that it hasn't been corrected. So what I had to learn to do is to correct it. So how do we define man? A man is a male that acting and irresponsible. There's something else that comes with that though. So we have to understand this part too. There are 4 parts that men deal with. Not 4 parts that men will deal with, but women and men. Men change every 7 years. Women change every 9. Men go through changes every 7. Women go through every 9. You're looking at me like, what do you mean by that? I'm glad you asked. We call it the Rashidi Matrix. There are 4 stages of manhood, right? That first stage is internalization. That's from 0 to 9. Everything, and it goes for women too, from 0 to 9, everything we see, right? That's you seeing, you hearing it, you smelling it, and you experimenting with it. So if you see your mama doing something from 0 to 9, or you see your daddy doing something from 0 to 9, all right, so that's internalization. I'm just internalizing. I'm looking to see what man is. I'm looking to see what woman is. I'm learning how to use the restroom. I'm learning when you put down a seat. You ain't got to talk. You don't know how to read, and you don't know how to write. The most important time in anybody's life is from 0 to 9. I don't care about how many PhDs you have or nothing. 0 to 9. You show me a young man or a young woman, and I'll tell you when it started. So let me take you from 0 to 9. That's the first stage. You call it internalization stage. The second stage is experimentation, right? You got that? So that's from 9, right, to 14. I mean, during that stage, you went from 7 to where we are now. From 9 to 16, right? So what do we call that? That's experimentation. So things that I've seen, now I'm gonna try it. If I saw you smoking, I'm smoking. I saw you being disrespectful, I'm disrespectful. I saw you not opening the door for her, I'm not opening the door for that. I heard what you said to my mother, then I'm not doing it. I heard what you said as a boyfriend to my mom. So I'm experimenting with it. So I'm gonna do the things that you did. So the next stage is called socialization. Well, now I'm socializing. That's why it's called social media. If you having sex at that age, I'm hanging out with people having sex. You doing drugs, I'm doing drugs. You robbing a house, I'm robbing a house. You playing baseball, I'm playing baseball. We socialize. And then the last stage is realization stage. Now you realize all that stuff you've been going through is foolishness. If you was having a baby, now I'm 21, you're like, oh, I had a baby. Wow, I didn't even realize that. Well, that's the realization stage. And lots of us don't understand those stages. And then what happens when you move through that, I think it's Breonna Brown who says, Brene Brown talks about the different stages. She says that, I switch it up. For us, it's embarrassment, humiliation, guilt, and shame. Let me repeat that. Embarrassment, humiliation, guilt, and shame. And I see the sister with the ankh on. We're embarrassed because we don't know who we are. right? Embarrassment. Humiliation is getting something you don't deserve because it wasn't even our fault. So you got the embarrassment, you have the humiliation, now you got the guilt. The guilt say I did do it. Guilt say I did be disrespectful. Guilt said I did steal something. Guilt said I did take that. That's the guilt. But then the guilt, so you got the embarrassment, humiliation, guilt. Guilt leads to shame. And we all know the shame leads to addiction. And addiction ain't always drugs. It can be violence. It can be sex. It can be a whole bunch of things. And then the next thing you know, now your son have HIV. And I'm not talking about the disease. I'm talking about a hood-infested virus. Well, I'm down for my hood. Or he'll get that thing they call AIDS, an acquired incarcerated death syndrome, where he don't care about dying or going to jail. These are acquired things. And then the last thing you know, you calling them Sam. Now we got black men who are silent, absent, and missing because they couldn't handle the 4 stages, right? But guess what? Nobody ever taught them. Nobody ever taught them. Yeah, we need a rites of passage. I'll wait.
Wow. Yeah, you can see that we let's like I'm just like, oh, I have some questions, but again,
I need a notebook. I need to get a notebook.
I came with that because I know about Mr. Clark.
I need it.
God be the glory.
God be the glory. Yeah, I've got a plethora of questions. Patricia, did something come to mind when I'm sure it did when Mr. Clark was talking, a question that you maybe wanted to direct to him?
It was so much growing up in Brooklyn, New York, you know, it didn't just bring about questions, it brought about understanding. For me, I look for understanding. I'm not so much as an inquisitive person when it's something I already know. There was nothing that he said that I disagree with. So I can only say now I'm more understanding of what it is that I saw from 0 to 9, from 9 to 16, why I picked up, because my daddy was a drug dealer, because my father did, you know, my brother did drugs, because my household was the household where you played cards and everybody was smoking cigarettes and drinking and partying on the weekend. And my mother—
Are we related?
We might be. My mother created that atmosphere with the Betty Wright songs that put you in the mind of being the other woman, that put you in the mind of being the cleanup woman, that make you have and get infested with those thoughts, with that music, with that attitude, with that action. But somehow I thought, listen to me clearly, that I escaped that attitude because I did everything opposite. I called myself, and a lot of people say, why you call yourself a breech baby? Because number one, most of my family has children, more than one and more than one child's father. I have one child, I know my daughter's father, and I have one child and one father. The music with being the other woman and all those things, I was very abrasive and abusive when it came to thinking I was another woman. Jeez. So when I say abusive, I mean that literally, like, ninja, I'm never the other woman. I am the woman. But as I would say right now, this is a joke between me and Darshell, I'm just finding out I've been the other woman a long time. Yeah. Didn't even know I was the other woman.
Yeah, but Melvin helped us with that one.
It was never put in my face, you know. So I have to constantly say it was a respect mode for me that I thought I gained. As far as not knowing my father, I've never met him. So growing to know your father, I remember being on the A train and all the other trains and looking up at mixed men because I hear my father has a mixed descent. So not knowing, I would not date Puerto Ricans. I did not date outside of my race or nationality because my mother told me he spoke Spanish. There are 1,000 men that can speak Spanish.
Right.
That does not mean he's Puerto Rican.
Right.
That does not mean he Costa Rican.
You just
That
learned
does
that.
not
Right.
mean he's Dominican.
Mexican.
That just means he
Latin.
spoke Spanish.
Right.
And her being a very young, impressionable young lady coming from Memphis, Tennessee in 63, my daddy got the draws in 64, and I was born in 64.
All right.
So I'd never met him. I'd never seen him. I heard he saw me before. So a lot of things that I'm hearing today is not, they're not questionable, they're answers to everything in my 55 years that I wanted to know. I do agree that you can't be what you can't see. But there are, me and Carolyn had this conversation this morning. There are people out here that if you just open your eyes, there are mentors, there are coaches, there are people that are out here that want to be not your superwoman, but want to be that mother that you never had. That want to be. I just took out one of my spiritual daughters the other night. We sat out on a patio for her birthday. Do you know this girl is almost 50 years old? She told me she's never had dinner with her mother on a patio. She's not my child, but it's my responsibility to show her what she deserves as a grown woman and how she should be treated. So thank you for showing me and pretty much opening up a clearer path. It's not clear all the way because I have a lot of unanswered things in my life. But what you have done is gave me not an inquisitive thought, but an understanding of what's really going on. As they say, Marvin Gaye say, what's going on? I say, I thank God for me being more conscious of what's going on and no longer, as my daughter's uncle say, no longer allowing to be misinformed by the misinformed. So thank you so much.
And I want to make sure that I give a caveat. Now, I haven't always known this either. So when I hear you all, remember, I had to go through that as well. But once you go through and you get over, it is our responsibility to bring somebody else over. So yeah, I'm in for that. And then in my book, I had written, I have a chapter in there, chapter 8, which is my favorite chapter, where you get to interview your father. And one of my favorite questions was, did you love my mother when I was born?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. That's what I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask you, Rickie, since you're there. Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. I wanted to ask you while you're there. I wanted to ask you, as a young Black male who didn't have your father in your life for many, many years, what were the questions you mentioned? You know what your daddy should have told you, but what were some of the questions that you wanted to ask your father? And I'm asking this question for personal reasons and just for our viewing audience, because actually my son and we've never had this conversation. Like I never asked him, if you could see your dad, what would you want to ask him?
How old is your son?
I never had that. My son now he's 26 years old now.
Oh, I need to send you the book. So we'll have a question so we'll be able to ask him. So oftentimes I work with people. I do these workshops, male socialization workshops. I'm in churches and schools. I'll tell you a little bit more about MBK in a minute. But I mean, he's worked with church, and I've done these presentations with grown men, 80 years old, break down, crying. But for years, I don't need to see my daddy. After we get through, it was like, man, I just never felt this before. I never know, because you don't know. So when you hear things like that, we do one of the activities called Pure Heart, right? And it's an activity that we do with the men so they can get into what's really going on. When you get that activity, and we have to make sure they're safe. And once they safe, oh man, we have a saying, don't zip it down if you can't zip it up. So yeah, when they start talking about their feelings, so when you hear them say, well, I ain't seen my daddy. I ain't never, oh yes, you do. You dealing with that right now. You dealing with it. If you don't know you dealing with it, it's dealing with you, right? Wow. We've heard that saying, when you don't deal with baby hurt become adolescent hurt become adult hurt. And then the hurt doing the hurting and don't know they hurt, right? So you don't even know you're doing it to the other people. So just for me, you know, when I started raising my son, what are the questions I think I would have asked? And I wrote them in the book. When did you man up? Right? That was one of the questions I had to ask my daddy. When did he man up? Remember, I didn't man up till I went and read a darn book. I'd have never man. I didn't know. When did you man up? Did you love my mother when you met her? Right? Well, how do you know when you see a man? These are questions that I'm asking him. How do you know when you see a man? If you don't know what questions to ask, and you'll be stuck too. So your son may need to know what questions to ask. I can't ask it if I never know. You know, you don't really know. So here's some of the questions. Did you love my mother when I was born? How do you know when you love somebody? My son asked me a question the other day. He said, Daddy, we going back and forth. And I was like, Thurs, do you love her enough to put up with it? Because everybody gonna have issues in their relationships. Do you love her enough that you want to deal with it? Because if you don't love her enough that you don't want to deal with it, then you need to cut your losses now and be honest and open with her. And you say to her, hey, the reason why, but if he loves her, I shouldn't have said his name, but he loves her. And because he loves her, she deal with his mess and he'll deal with hers. But you got to come to that level of saying that, right? Because if you don't know no better, you won't do no better. If you don't know any better, you won't do any better. You'll keep doing the things you've been doing, right? Keep getting the same results because you've never had that conversation. You've never even thought. Y'all ever read that book about the 4 love languages? I know some of y'all have heard the love languages, right? So I shared that with one of my other sons. If you don't know how to love me, how you gonna love me? And I don't even know what the love is. So he had to figure out, hey, the love languages. My love languages is acts of kindness and gifts. You buy me a gift, I'm happy. You do something, I'm happy. Right, right. But that's how you love me. But I got to love you the way you want to be loved, not the way I want to be loved.
That is,
you don't know how to do that. And so my daddy didn't know how to do that. Right? He couldn't have given it to my mama. My mama couldn't have given it to me. Right? So I had to get it from other places. So yeah, my mother taught me how a man should treat a woman, but I had to see how a man thought. So now I'm listening to my granddaddy. Now I'm watching my mama's boyfriend, right? Now I'm watching other things. I remember mama's boyfriend, Aaron. He always had money. When we come over, he'll just give us some money. What you think I started doing when I got older? Every time the kids come over, if I go bust somebody in woman's house and she got kids, what do you think I did? I gave her money. And guess what? It was an act of kindness. It was a gift that he gave me. I loved it. And then I expressed it back to them. And she's like, well, why would you? I don't give my kids money. You follow what I'm saying? When we don't know, we don't know. But let me give you what really changed my life. Is when I started studying my African history. When I started studying it, when I say, I ain't talking about African American history. I'm talking about Akibalon.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all know I used to pastor a church, but when I started studying ancient Egypt, all that changed. You hear me?
I understand.
All that changed. When you start looking at the principles, you talk about a rites of passage program. A rites of passage is borrowed from the African tradition. In order to be a man or a girl or a woman, you had to master the skills set by the elders of the community. Such skills as time management, leadership development, health, all those things. And once you master that, you recognize as a man. And me and my sons, we know it ain't about how old you are, how many kids you have, how much drink you drink. If you ain't acting, thinking, and living responsible, you just masquerading as a man. I started reading my history, started to realize not about race. Everybody's talking about race. I ain't talking about race, I'm talking about culture.
Yes.
Culture is the way you, because most of us in our households, if you look at their house, you wouldn't know if they were from African descent. You can break in most people's house. If there's no pictures in there, how they know you African? And culture, human beings like fish to water, right? So when I started learning the culture and became immersed in who we are and whose we are, remember in Africa, they don't have no place for no homeless kids. They ain't no homeless kids. They didn't have the senior citizen house. You don't get old and be sent to a senior citizen home. Mm-hmm. So we have to learn what our culture is, right? Who taught my children to disrespect their mom? Who taught the kids to talk to their mother? Who taught that? Who taught our children to disrespect elders? Right? And when I go to juvenile detention centers, I've been all over the country. When I go in those juvenile detention centers, I don't see Asian kids in there, and I don't see Africans from Africa.
That's right.
And not only that, When I work in the schools, you'll know I run the My Brother's Keeper program, the initiative of Barack Obama here in Fort Worth. I'll share that with you in a minute. But when I'm in there and I'm working with the Africans from Africa, who they call refugees, they all A's. They all A's. They don't disrespect. They thought I was racist. When I was talking about black, he was like, every time they talk to you, you talk about Africa. And how do you? And then when he realized, oh, Mr. Rickie know more about Africa than I know about Africa, he changed that. I went in there and showed him my ancestral DNA. I'm from Cameroon, from the Bimelec tribe. I broke it down for him and showed it to him. He was like, oh, you know more about it than I do. But the point I'm trying to make is what culture? It's about culture. We have to be taught how to love our women. We have to be taught how to respect our parents. We have to be taught. And if we're not being taught those things and we're going based on what Europeans do, we fit the script.
Okay. I wanted to say a couple of things. I like how you made the distinction between, you know, learning the African American history.
That's right.
As well as, you know, as if that, you know, there's a huge disconnect there that you have to start like from the beginning and take it all the way up. Otherwise you are missing, I mean, a huge chunk of it, which I guess will show you why, because with, you know, Black History Month, you know, we talk about so-and-so made the traffic light and, you know, all of these different things, you know, which is extremely important, but it's still a huge piece missing, which is why you still see a lot of kids that don't really believe in themselves, and how we don't, when we look at ourselves, what do we really see?
That's why I was driving to.
And then
what I was driving to. Go ahead.
Right. And then you made the other point. I know something else, but you said a lot in one, you know, in a short span of time. The other piece was how you said that you asked me, you know, how you even asked this of yourself. What would you say to your father? And how you were saying it don't matter if you 16,
that's right,
60, 80, you know what I mean?
That's right.
What would you say to your father? What questions would you ask him? And I think a lot of times it's masked through anger. I don't care about that, or I did just fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
that's
really the bottom line is you really haven't faced that. They haven't faced that hurt. And when you don't, you carry it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, then you be thinking that's what a man is.
Right.
So now you're seeing, we call it masculinity when it really is not.
Right.
Because men and women are both loving and kind. That's not true that men are more masculine or women are more feminine in that respect. We have a ba and a ka. We have balance within our lives. Everybody is in balance. You can say something sound like a man or say something sound like a woman. It's called balance. That goes back to what we talk about ancient Egypt. Maya, balance, right? So if you're talking for me, so when I say that, so you know I speak, and I wrote a new book called From Kindergarten to 12th Grade, Can Equal 13 Years a Slave. And as I travel throughout the country, I asked superintendents, school board representatives, people that's teaching our boys, right? Here's the question I asked. Can you name a time when Black men were not enslaved and empowered? That's the question. Let me repeat it. Can you name a time when Black men were not enslaved and empowered, meaning we running stuff? I'm asking the question. Can anybody do that? No. So guess what the next question I ask? And they say the same thing you say. No, I can't think of a time when Black people were not enslaved and empowered. And the second question I ask them is this. Well, can you name a book from kindergarten to 12th grade that speaks positive about people of color?
There you go.
Anybody? And the question is, no. So you can't name a time when Black men were not enslaved and empowered. You can't name a book from kindergarten to 12th grade. Then how do we know when we're free? Well, how do we know when we're free or we freedom? So then I get even personal and I say to them, not what you tell my kids. What do you tell your kids? When your kid, your son and daughter come to you and say, Meemaw, Pawpaw, tell me a time when Black people were not enslaved and empowered. What do you tell your own biological kids? Because if you can't tell your own kids, then what you think about your own self? But let me get you something. There is a time when Black people were not enslaved and empowered. And for most of us who call ourselves Christians, you should know. And you're like, well, what do you mean by that, Rickie? I'm glad you asked, because God told the angel to tell Joseph and Mary to take my son to Egypt and hide him there because Herod is trying to kill him. That's what the Bible says. It says, take my son to Egypt and hide him there because Herod is trying to kill him. Well, if it's good enough for God's son, wouldn't it be good enough for us?
You talk about it.
Because when he got to Egypt, the pyramids were already there. The university was already there, right? The pyramid sitting in the center of the earth, 48 stories high, 755 feet wide, taking 2,300,000 stones to build, each stone weighing 3 tons or more, and it was built by a black man. You want to teach me about a black man? Teach me about Imhotep, the first doctor, the first mathematician. That wasn't in America. I got a degree in mathematics. They told me that Pythagoras is the father of math and Euclid is the father of geometry, but they can't make a pyramid. How the heck you gonna be the father of math and the father of geometry and you can't make a pyramid in 2020?
That's right.
So when you start teaching young men this information, showing them a time when they were not enslaved, so now when they go to school, they go in a different light. Remember, it says kindergarten to 12th grade. What do you do in the garden? You plant seeds. What seeds are we planting? And we want to know why our boys act like they act. The man has always been out in the woods and the woman have always been there. But he had a rites of passage to help. So we're not bothered by that. My mama did the best she could while that man was wherever he was. So we got to go back into our genetic memory and remember that. And what's deep, we got it now. Let me tell you what's deep about it. Somebody say what's deep. What's deep is we got it now. Well, how do you know we got it now? Because in the Garden of Eden, it was only 2 people, Adam and Eve. And they said they could eat from any tree they want to, except the tree of knowledge was supposed to be the apple tree. Look at the back of your iPhone. The apple been bit. You can ask Siri anything. We ignorant because we choose to be. Ask Siri, what's the original name for Africa? Akibalan. Well, what does Akibalan mean? Spiritual people, Garden of Eden, Mother Earth. Look it up. What is the name? What is the original name for Egypt? Kemet. What does Kemet literally mean? Land of the black people. Oh, you said that Alexander the Great built the first library. Well, how did Alexander the Great build the first library? He couldn't have. They were already, but he built the first library where they buried the lives, but he didn't build the first library.
That's it right there.
So when
the
you
library.
tell young people that, right? And then I'm in the university. I'm speaking. I think I was over at the university. What was I? I was in Arizona. And I asked a question. I'm in a room, 400 people asking the exact same questions. And I said, well, then let me ask you another question. Anybody here got a degree? They was like, anybody graduated from university? They say, yeah. I said, well, why do they call it the university? Everybody looked. I said, you graduated. Why do they call it the university? I said, because we had studied the universe. Well, how do you know we studied the universe? Because we put the pyramid in the center of the earth. That's why the first university is in Timbuktu, Luxor. We're the first university.
That's right.
Cambridge. And why do they call it university? Because they had studied the universe. Well, how do you know? Because they put the pyramid in the center of the earth. They had to know that the earth was round. They had to know geography and astrology and get deep with them. I shared with the brother the other day, Africa is the only continent that don't float on water. It's rooted to the core of the earth. What do you mean, Ricky? Well, it's an apple. You get a bite, she get a bite, she get a bite, but I still got the core in my hand. So the Pangea drift, then when they had the Pangea or the continental drift, they all broke from the continent. There are 34 natural resources, 28 of them in Africa. That's the kind of stuff that you teach boys to be men.
Yes.
It's only when you begin your history in a state of freedom. Nobody begins their history in slavery. And slavery is not African history. Slavery is an interruption of African's history.
Yes.
And I wasn't born in Africa, but Africa was born in me. Right? So we can't get caught up in that. And what we do is when you talk about teaching the boys, you need a model. Well, where's the model? Well, let me show you Imhotep. Let me show you Ramses. Let me show you Khufu, Khafra, and Nicaragua. Right? The 3 pyramids are sitting in the center of the earth. Let me show you Khufu, head of a man, body of a lion. That's the kind of stuff we got to do. And when you teach them things like that, and I know, I've been in the church for years, and I'm not going to get away from that. But I have to ask questions. Well, where did the Bible come from? Where did you get this? It came from pyramid texts and coffin texts. Where did it come from? Pyramid texts and coffin texts. Well, where's the pyramids? In Africa. Where's the coffins? In Africa. Now you asking me how to be a man? I'm the example of manhood when I know who I am.
That part. Darshell, I know you sitting there like,
look,
Come
I know
on.
when I'm in class. I know how to act when I'm in class.
Yes, ma'am.
God be the glory.
I sit and I listen to the teacher and I imbibe that information. Look, I got to go get my books out. I got to get my books out. Now these are things that I remember being when I went to college, and I was very much into church at the time, you know, really heavy into the church. And you couldn't ask these kinds of questions.
Absolutely.
Even today, if I make any insinuation about anything, and I'm gonna tell you what happened. I was doing a study on worship. I was a worship leader. And so I was studying worship. And we started to, so if you study in worship, then you wanted to, you go back to, if you're studying worship from the biblical perspective, you're looking at the Bible, you get into that Old Testament, you want to talk about the way the temples were established. You got an outer court, an inner court, a holy place, and the most holy place. So as I began to look at that setup, I almost fell over as a worship. I taught worship. This is what we did. I almost fell over to understand that the temple setup was not a Jewish, was not a Christian establishment. This was co-opted, stolen from Egyptians. They started their temples. The way that those temples were constructed was an outer court, an inner court, a holy place, and the most holy place.
That's right.
The same idea, the same graduation of worship. It was the same idea, but I couldn't ask those questions because either I'm a heretic, I'm of the devil, I am overstepping my boundaries. And my favorite one was God's omniscient. He's omnipotent. And he can do whatever he wants to do, and you shouldn't ask questions. That's so to hear this brother just laying it out.
Truth don't have no holes in it.
I know when I'm in class and I'm taking notes, these are things that I shared in bits and pieces with my children. These are things that you hear my brother often espouse. But we're afraid to talk about it. But as we talk about having a conversation, as we begin to talk about opening up and sharing and freeing us and healing, we cannot get there if we don't start here. And
come on.
Well, see,
for the rest of the week, I'm wrecked. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm wrecked.
But see, Darshell, you know what? See, let me say this. But see, we have to, and I'm sitting here thinking now, Rickie, I probably am this is where I'm gonna start getting in trouble a little bit. Okay, so, but we have to have these conversations, and so I want to make this real clear for all of our viewers, and for what I'm about to say, that this is not an indictment of what I'm getting ready to say on the institution of the church. Okay,
I pastored church for 7 years, and associate pastor for 8,
okay,
and I'm a graduate of Christian college. Come on with it.
Okay, so right. So this is not an indictment on the church, but what I am going to say, and I believe this with every fiber of my being, and this is a part of what I encourage people as I am speaking upon the revelation that I have gotten about myself as a Black woman, okay, is that religion has really destroyed Black people. And what religion has done, I'm talking about religion. What religion has done. See, I'm not talking about spirituality, because Black people have always been spiritual. We did not become spiritual people when they came over and got us and brought us on over here. We were already spiritual people. Okay, we were already revelatory, prophetic people. That we were already that. All of that, I believe, got watered down when we came over here and we began to pick up, a foreign knowledge that definitely was not our own. And so it is incumbent, I believe, and thank you so much, Rickie, for just, I'm jumping inside, but it is incumbent, I believe, I agree with Darshell, it is incumbent of us as Black people, okay, to not dive further into religion, Okay, but it is incumbent of us to recognize that we are spiritual, divine people, and that we already got it. Okay.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but you're right. We do have to talk, especially if you're talking about black and men. You talk about men ascending. We got to know who we are, because we've been in church I'm 59, I'll be 60 for years, and all I've ever seen was a white Jesus. And I'm a black man. Everybody else got a picture of a deity that looked like them, but we don't. Every religion got a deity that looked like them, but we don't. I'm not afraid to say that. Truth ain't got no holes in it. And what we have to understand is that when you're dealing with religion, you're dealing with faith. Faith says to believe something without facts. Why do I need faith when I got facts? You follow what I'm saying? So, yeah, you got to believe. Well, okay, I'm not caught up in that. I can believe. But why do I have to believe when I got facts? You only need faith when you don't have facts. But when you got facts, you don't need the faith. Just like I see that ox she have on her neck. We know what that is, a symbol of life. What does it mean?
And wisdom.
The top part is the woman. The bottom part is the man. Man goes to the woman, giving you eternal life. We know that. We know that the cross is a symbol of death. So just call it like it is. And you need to remember this part. All religion came from Africa. Not some of it, not most of it. All of it. So I'm not opposed to religion. I've been religious too.
Oh yeah.
I want to bring up something real quickly, with what Darshell said. That is one of the major problems I had for me. My mother was a worship leader, head songstress, all of that stuff back in Memphis, Tennessee. I was not fortunate. When my mother hit New York City and New York City hit her in 63, I was born in 64 because she turned into a hot girl.
That's right.
About church, she was doing her thing, right? And I was born in 64. As far as I know, these are the things that have been told to us. Even as Black people, we don't even know our own family, let's know our roots, because a lot of our families say we don't talk about that. Don't talk about the incest. Don't talk about the molestation. Don't talk about Uncle Ricky. Stay off of Uncle Ricky lap. Those type of things we don't talk about.
And it's killing us.
What I want to say is, yes. But what I want to say is, Darshell brought up something. When I was almost 30, when I had my experience with what I call my God, okay? When I had my experience, because I'm 30 years clean right now, almost 31. I've been saying 30 for it seems like forever.
You was clean in
from the streets, okay, the last time I used substances was almost 31 years ago. So when I say to myself, when women say to me how we supposed to look, how we supposed to act, where did we learn that from? You can't tell me I'm supposed to eat from the left to the right because a white man taught you that's what table etiquette looks like. You can't tell me to speak proper English because English is my second language.
It's a bastard language.
It's not my first language.
That's right.
So what is your proper language? I'm a hood. I'm from the hood.
That's right.
So because it sounds properly to you does not mean it's not proper to me. When you tell me to dress a certain way, take off my big earrings, take off my dress, how I'm supposed to look for a job interview. What you're telling me is what the European or the Caucasian person has told me to look like. But when I wear my hair nappy like this, I'm still not, when I have to put my wig on to get a job and make my face up every day and put on my lipstick to get a job, that's, you know what I'm saying? So I'm at this point right now. Love me or leave me, whatever. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But what I am going to tell you, what Darshell said, is the heresy that has been taught to us. And when you tell me, because I got a Cadillac and the pastor driving a minivan, that something is wrong with my lifestyle, or
Come
I'm
on now.
boasting. I'm
Come on now.
boasting because I don't want to think lowly of myself. And I'm trying to come up out of a place called Lodabar. Or I'm trying to come up out of the pit that I think I'm better than you are, or I
Right.
think I'm better than the members in my church. Then something is wrong with that. You want me to feel less than because you don't know how to feel who you are.
Yeah.
So I say again, questions are being answered. Knowledge is being spit.
Just there.
Understanding is coming around. Wisdom is inevitable. But if you don't do what I'm doing right now, going and breathing it in, it's just hitting the air. And all you're doing is having a conversation that will never be a revelation. It will never change you. It will never do anything if you're unwilling to challenge, like you said, what people are saying to us in the building, which is the church building. Because like I tell people, no church hurt me. People hurt me. The building didn't do nothing to me. The building itself is a building made out of stone that I go in and call myself worshiping with my sisters and my brothers. But the hurting part came when I couldn't be me, because to me, testimony is not standing up talking about the Lord paid a bill. Somebody knocked on my door and brought me a can of chicken noodle soup just when I was down to nothing. The Lord was up to something, because the Lord always been up to something when he created me. He always been up to something. And that's not a boast. That's a truth. So when we dealing with the truth, what's real is that last night my flesh almost rose up. You understand what I'm saying? And there are things that I need to talk to my sisters and brothers about to remain a respectable woman. Understand? To remain in my right state of mind, because I have all this. But if I say that, the devil's riding me. Oh, sister, you need to pray. You need to go in the room, and you got so much devil and hell in you. You see what I'm saying? But you gotta be able to have a safe place to release this tension and to release these thoughts, because we are women. And I don't know about nobody else on here. Two are married. I know I'm not married. I'm a woman. I love men. Ain't nothing wrong with me loving a man. But what you ain't gonna tell me is because I have a thought, I'm going to hell.
Right. Well,
You're
I mean, but all that was
that.
part of the plan, though, miss. You have to remember, if I control you, if I control what you think, and I don't have to worry about your actions.
That's
not me.
Repeat that.
Absolutely.
If I can control
Not
what
me.
you're thinking, the last time I preached a sermon, it was, and it's the reason why I left church. My last sermon was Miss Joel. Why Miss Joel? Because they talk about all the things that Joel, but she went through some stuff too. She lost her kids. Out of my mind, I'm like, well, why do black women get caught up in this book right here? It ain't nothing positive about them. Name one positive woman in the church, in the whole Bible. You can't even talk about the mother of Jesus, but you can talk about Jesus. It just wasn't adding up to me. Wait a minute. Why not women? How do you beat it? Come on, God. And you know it had to be a woman first. I had to get it from a woman. Really, it don't even add up to me. Everything about the women was negative. So I'm saying that I know this conversation is black men, but it can't be a black man without a black woman. You are the essence. When the women ain't sharp, the men ain't sharp. If you sick, we sick. If it's messed up for black men, it's definitely messed up for black women, because that's why it's called the mother tongue, the mother wit, the motherland. It all comes from you. So if you ain't got it to get it, then go get it. And where do you go get this from? Go to the source, right? Go to the source. And here's the other thing that he talks about. We talk about religion. For me, my mother just passed 2 years ago. I think it's like a year. I think my brother, you know, when people pass, when you really love them, it's a spiritual thing, right? If I ask you right now, I bet you can tell me, if somebody passed in your life, you can tell me what they smelled like, what their clothes was like. You know they spirit. Somebody can say something to you like, you know, my mama used to say that, right? It's the essence of who we are. If I came from my mother and my mother passed, is she still here? Yeah.
Yes.
It's in me.
Yes.
It's all been passed all the way down from our ancestors. We need to go back, like the Sankofa bird, and pick that up. When we worship, we have to worship the way we used to. Let me say this part. There were 5 things Black people couldn't do during slavery. We couldn't learn to read and write, right? Couldn't beat drums, couldn't be in a group of more than 5, and couldn't have church without a white person.
That is correct.
You know when that took place? After Nat Turner. Nat Turner is the first noted African preacher.
That is
and
right.
when he started reading the book for himself, read Birth of a Nation, and he realized that he would go and organize people. He said, before I be a slave, I die and go away with my father and live in here. Before I be a slave. He used those terms right there, straight from the Bible, right? So we know when you see it for yourself, they just took it and repackaged and gave it to us. So I don't knock the Bible. Like you say, I ain't gonna throw away the baby. When I used to pastor, I would teach the principles, because principles will work for anybody that are blind. So keep the principles, but watch the
That's
foolishness.
right. Yes.
And what did I want to say?
And thank
That's
y'all for
teaching
having a
right there.
dialogue and not a discussion.
Look,
So I'm
that's
loving it.
teaching.
Well, we've got just a few minutes left.
I'm over here
Okay.
spinning,
Okay.
boy, because you.
We're gonna have to do this at least one
Yeah,
more
we
day.
have to do
Yeah,
this
one more
again.
day.
We don't have. I
We
wish
might
we
need
had.
to do this 2 or 3 more.
I wish because we could sit with you all day.
Yes.
Because I mean, we're like a sponge, and I know everybody. We're taking it in because.
And ladies, y'all, I'm saying this. It's what changed me. When I started studying and reading, learning about my ancestors, learning about my people, it changed my entire life. I would have got the kids.
When you
Well, we have about, as I'm trying to keep,
Ask a
I'm
question,
sorry,
Jacqueline.
I'm sorry, I'm the bad guy. Okay, we have about maybe 5 minutes left. Jacqueline, you have
Okay,
a question. I want you to ask a
Sure
question,
do.
and then Rickie, I
Come
want
on,
you to
Jacqueline.
conclude.
before you leave us, can you tell us, because I have a 9-year-old about to be 10, can you recommend like a website or something that I can go to get some literature, for his
Yes.
age range that could teach him these types of things?
Right. So you all know my webpage, RickieClarke.com. Right. And he's not too young to read that first book, What My Daddy Should Have Told Me. And one of the things that I do when I sell the books, I challenge the young people. They buy the book. I tell them, you do an essay, I give you $10 for reading the essay. The book costs $15. You buy this book and you give me a 1-page essay, I'll give you $10 back. And I've been doing it ever since I started. Right. So one of the things you want to do, if you can go there, and in the books that I purchase, I have, let me show y'all with this. I have suggested books, suggested poems, and suggested documentaries and movies. And then in this book, I got 50 books you should read, 50 questions you should know, all in there. So if you go and let me tell y'all something from this point on, don't read a book without reading the reference books. So if you want your child to read the book and have them read the reference book. But in this book, have what you asked for. So if you get the book, it has that in there. And then this one give you the 50 questions of the things I was responding to about Africa. 50 questions that everybody should know with the answers. All right. So I know you got to go, but let me leave you with this. And I talk about him all the time. His name is M.K. Asante out of New York. You probably know of M.K. Asante. M.K. Asante wrote the poem, 2 Sets of Notes. What is it called? 2 Sets of Notes. He's used to get in trouble all the time because I work with kids like that. And the name of the poem is 2 Sets of Notes, and I like to leave you with it. And I quote, sometimes I feel like I'm above the ground and the ceiling, and institutions that disengage in healing. Instead, open warp wombs trap me in room, consumed with hypocrisy. But it has occurred to me that Greek philosophers didn't author their own philosophy. Statues on campus be watching me. Washington, Jefferson, Williams clocking me as if to say, Negro, your time is up. But I don't run laps around track. I run laps around scholars of tomorrow, because new school of thought is merely our history borrowed. They label me militant, black, national, radical, trying to put my learning process on sabbatical. But I don't apologize with the truth to the whites of their eyes, infected by white lies. They even try to get me to see their point of view by a brother that looks like me. Their brother don't walk like me, talk like me, or act like me. He even turned his head and ran when I asked if he was black like me. Memorizing their thoughts and forgetting our own and wondering why we always feel alone. From the media to academia, hanging our brothers like coats. And in their schools, always take 2 sets of notes. One set to ace the test, and one set I call the truth. And when I find historical contradictions, I use the first set as proof. Proof that our youth minds are being polluted, convoluted, diluted, not culturally rooted in anything except Western massacre. Most of us are scared of Africa. We view our motherland through the eyes of David Ham and Emmanuel King. But Emmanuel King tell me about a land he never seen, a land rich with history, beautiful kings and queens. But they'll have you to believe otherwise. The history is built off high-rise lies. The pyramids were complete before Rome or Greece were conceptual lies. And then they'll claim that the Egyptian race was a mystery. You tell them, read, he wrote us his book too. It's their history. It can't get any clearer. Young people, look in the mirror. We are the reflection of divinity. Don't be fooled by selective memory. Walk high and listen to the elders who spoke. Young people always take 2 sets of notes. That's what I want to leave you with. Thank you for having me. If there's anything that I can do, let me know.
Jesus.
I love doing this work so much, I will do it for free.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
I will do it for free. Our people need to know. Men need to know. Women need to know. Please, whatever I can do. This is my ministry.
Ms. Clark, can you tell everybody, please, where can we, because I'm sure after this session,
Jacqueline, you all right?
She's
all
not.
right?
We do that on this. This is what we.
That's okay. I cry too, but I want to check with her. You know, 1 word check in. One of the things we do in our closing, we always put our left foot forward, which is to stomp out evil and to protect the heart. And I need to do that with you all so that we can leave with a 1 word check in and make sure that we got to check on our feelings. So 1 word check in. Tell me how you feel, Jacqueline. 1 word.
Oh God, I don't even know.
1 word. You can do it.
Just
Feelings.
moved, I guess. Just free.
You feel moved. Free. Dashelle, 1 word. It's okay. It's okay.
Broken.
Okay. I wanted to be built back up. Coach.
Educated.
Educated. Dr. Carolyn.
I feel strong.
I feel revolutionary. That only means change. I want us to change. And I enjoyed it. And anytime we can get together and do this.
So powerful.
Don't worry about it. I won't play golf. I'll come. Because we need each other. I can feel it right now. Spiritually, we do. I don't even know where you are, but I can feel you. And Dr. Carolyn, I feel like I've been knowing you. You got a really good spirit. I don't know. All of us is like we've been somewhere and I don't know where. But thank you for letting me speak my truth.
Thank you for
powerful.
I feel that with lots of people that we've already been together, we've already been connected, and we were broken apart.
That's true.
And now we're coming back together, and the coming back and us coming back together is bringing the healing. It's bringing the healing. And Mr. Clark, this is especially profound for me. Well, I don't know what this show do.
I'm good with it too.
Okay, but
you go to church, everybody cry, you start crying.
Yeah, but I want to tell you that
we connected.
That's all.
Yeah, well, we're connecting, and but I want to tell you that I want to say to you that I love you. Julie told me about you, and we first talked, and you've done nothing but just always told me, you know, I want to do this for you, Dr. Carolyn. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. You know, I mean, you've been there like that for me, and I called Darshell like I was like this. I was like, you got to call me that right there. And I couldn't think of anybody else finer to do the foreword for this for I Am a Black Man book. And we, Darshell and I, had decided that we couldn't think of anybody, couldn't find anybody. And
just spiritual.
And we just said, well, we just won't have one. But within myself, I felt like we did need to have one, but I just couldn't think of who that could be. And just when when I thought about it, and I knew you were free, and I was talking to Shuby, and I was like, that's it. I called Darshell. I was like, that's it. He's the one. He's the one. And so I am so elated that you did the foreword. I've read it. It was superb, which is I knew it would be. I'm particularly happy to have you here and I'm so happy. And I want to say this to all of the kings that are listening. I speak for all of the hosts that are here. I am so elated that here on this show, In Between Sisters, that we're having an opportunity to connect with our kings, that we are able to come together in unity and in love. And I will say this, and I love the fact that, and this happens every session we have, this is not new, but I love the fact that as Black men and Black women, that we can come in this environment and we can connect emotionally, because there has been an emotional disconnect between Black men and women, but I'm so happy that we're able to connect emotionally. I am so thankful that I'm able to cry with my brother, that I'm able to feel with my brother. And thank you so much, Rickie, for doing the feelings check and checking up on a sister, checking up on some sisters right now. And thank you for allowing us to be in your space, and thank you for being in our space. And we're all thankful for being in this space at this time. But we coming back, okay? We have much work to do together. I want to thank, first of all, my beautiful queen sisters and my host. I thank all of these beautiful queens for their energy and their power and their educated minds and their feelings and everything. So thank you so much, Jacqueline Cabal Harrison. Thank you so much, Patricia Johnson, aka Coach P. That's me. Thank you so much, Boss Lady Darshell McAlpine. Thank you so very much. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, for listening to us, for vibing with us, for feeling with us. You've just been a part of In Between Sisters, where there's nothing between us except love. Peace, love, and blessings to all of you. God bless all of you. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much again, Mr. Clark. We love everybody.
Thank you.
Love you too. I said it first. I love you too. I said it first. Bye-bye.